Well, guess what? It is 6 o'clock on the West Coast, folks. So I thank you all for chatting with me along the way here. I'm going to get this thing started today. So here we go. We're going to be diving into using Power Automate to take action on Microsoft Forms and Excel data. And this is going to be, there's going to be some interaction opportunities inside here because I'm going to give you some forms to fill out and play around with. But before we do that, I'm just going to go and jump in and run through the standard stuff that we do with our deck here. So our schedule, we're at the 6 p.m. on the West Coast time for the welcome and overview here, and we'll be into the feature presentation in a few minutes. Whether or not I finish at 7:05 on the West Coast or later or earlier, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Remember that if you do need to run off, that it will always be recorded, and we're going to be posting it up on the SkillWave YouTube channel within the next 48 hours or so. I want to say a big thanks to the sponsors here. SkillWave is our training division. They are our primary sponsor that we actually have for these events now. Excelguru is my individual company. SkillWave is a partnership between myself and Matt Allington. And one of the primary things I just want to call out with Excelguru is we do manufacture the Monkey Tools Excel add-in to make your life easier when you're working with Power Query and Power Pivot. Our next meetups that are going to be coming up, our next Power BI speaker we have is Joel Gagnon, and he is going to be calling in from, I believe, from Montreal, but I'm sure it's Quebec for sure. And he's going to be talking about maximizing the impact of Power BI applications by improving the user experience. So that's going to be in a couple of weeks from now. The RSVPs should be open for that already. And again, if you can't join us for that, of course, it'll be recorded, but we always love it when people join us live. We are working on confirming our speaker for the next Excel track session, so stay tuned for more information on that. It will be coming out as soon as we actually have it confirmed. Again, just a quick mention here that we've got a new home for 2022 for our Meetup recordings here. Instead of posting them on the Excelguru SkillWave or YouTube channel, we have actually moved these now to the SkillWave YouTube channel. So there is a short link there if you would like to go and actually sign up to make sure that you follow it so that you know every time that it is there is a new video that's been posted. You can actually find that link. I'm just going to drop it into the chat right here. There it is. So if you sign up to follow that channel, you'll get notified every time we actually go and post a new recording of the Power BI channel. In addition to that, we also have our Monkey Shorts video. The third version was released today. This one was all about granular control of pivot table format, so you can actually combine things like outline view and tabular view in one pivot table on different fields. Really proud of this. Really cool little technique here that I think you like. All these videos are under 3 minutes. That is on the SkillWave YouTube channel that I just gave you the link to. But if you are interested in signing up for just that specific playlist, you can do so at the link that I am going to drop into the chat there now. So there you go. There's the next one that could be useful for you. I do want to just throw a quick shout out here to one of the products that I've got coming up. On February 15th, we are going to be kicking off the inaugural semester of a new product that I have called the Excel Fundamentals Bootcamp. This is not targeted at people working with Power Query and Power Pivot. This is a specific product that we actually run, and we have historically done this for large organizations, but we're now actually making this available to the public. It is a coached course that has a curriculum of material that we follow. We sign a certain amount every week, and then we actually meet up for a live Q&A session. We then also have monthly Ask Me Anything sessions where you can basically ask me anything. The whole purpose of this particular product is to make sure that somebody has some good Excel core fundamental skills. So we look at how to structure data properly. We look at using a variety of formulas. We do a deep dive into, the most hated and feared function, VLOOKUP, not because it's the best function to use today, but mainly because once you actually understand how VLOOKUP works, you can unlock anything after that. We also do things like Power Query and pivot tables. The idea here is to take someone, fill in knowledge gaps that they have, and get them to an intermediate level of Excel skill. So if there's people, if you feel that's you, or there's people in your organization that you think could use that kind of training to make sure that they're at the right level for you, you should definitely check out this product. Our first semester is beginning on February 15th. There will be more after that, but keep it in mind for those around you or for yourself if you want to upskill and make sure you're not missing anything in core Excel knowledge. The last thing I want to say before I jump into my presentation is we are actively looking for speakers for this year's session. So if you are interested in speaking for the user group, whether it's on Excel or Power BI, you can actually fill out this little survey here that I'm just dropping into the chat again. We would love to have you. It's a great place to be able to try out some content and meet some cool people online here. Yeah, I'll just sort of leave it with that. But as I say, we are actively looking for speakers for both our Excel and our Power BI tracks. We love new people. So if it sounds like something you'd be interested in, check it out. And on that note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and say, let's move into our topic for tonight. So today, what I'm going to be presenting on is something that is, well, not my primary sort of area that I usually focus on here. I'm going to be showing something on Power Automate. And I just want to be clear on this one before I actually jump in and start really talking about this one here, is that I do not claim to be an expert in Power Automate. Okay, that's the first thing that I want to say here. I am approaching this much more from a user who has attempted to make things work in Power Automate, has been very frustrated with not being able to get things done. This is a product that I've been working with for on and off for quite a long time, and it's one of these things that I would say that I've got a real love-hate relationship with the way that Power Automate actually works. Every time I try and do something, it seems to be too difficult to do the hard thing that I actually want to do. I don't want to do easy stuff, of course. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some solutions that I actually have built that I've got working now, and show you some of the how I got started, how I approached it, where some of the problems were, and how I actually got into some solutions. Before I do that, I will share with you my good old vanity slide. I think most of you probably know who I am, but if you don't, I run an Excelguru.ca website. I'm a founding partner of SkillWave Training. I've been a Microsoft MVP for a long time in Excel and Data Platform, which looks after Power BI, now Office Apps and Services. Written a few books. The biggest one on the screen here, Master Your Data, is the one you really want if you want to master your Power Query skill set. And I also am the developer of the Monkey Tools add-in for Excel, as I mentioned beforehand. And the first demo that I'm going to show you today is actually specifically related to Monkey Tools. What I want to show you here is a flow or Power Automate flow that we actually built in order to automate bug logging when things happen. So the other thing I'm going to throw out there on this one here is that I have the chat window open on my screen on the right-hand side. So if there are questions as we go along, fire them into the chat. That's probably the easiest way here. I've only got one there, so I can't see hands raised or anything like that. So as I say, questions into the chat is probably the easiest way to go here, and I'm happy to sort of answer them to my best ability as we go on. If there are people here who are Power Automate experts, very likely that you are better at this than I am. So if I do something that you look at and go, that's really weird, you shouldn't do that, throw that into the chat too. I want to know about it, okay? So let's keep that in mind. So here we go. So this is based on a Monkey Tools project. This is a screenshot of the menu that we have on our help menu inside Monkey Tools in Excel. And you'll notice that we've got log a bug, which I've actually just highlighted in yellow here. So what happens here is when a user goes and clicks that thing, and we don't get a lot of these, which I'm sort of proud to say, but you know, there are bugs, of course, in every piece of software that gets built. What we want for our workflow is that when the user clicks the log a bug, they're actually sent to a Microsoft form, and that can go and capture what issues they actually have. So there's a few questions that we ask that we get them to give us some information around. Once the user actually submits the bug report, what we want is we want a ticket logged into Azure DevOps, and that is the back-end software that we use to manage our commits for our code so that we get our version control. It also allows to track what features we're building, what bugs are there, and how we actually resolve them and when it's done and all those kind of things, assign them to our developers or whatnot. Of course, the last thing that we want to do with this is that, you know, we are proudly Canadian, and you know, as most of you know, Canadians are sort of known for being polite, at least most of the time. So we like to email someone to say thank you for submitting the bug to us. And This allows us to actually make sure that the email address is valid that they give us so that we can get in contact with them if we need more detail as well. So there's kind of a two-piece to this, but the primary thing that I wanted to do was actually acknowledge what they've actually sent in and say thanks, because good bug reports are worth their weight in gold to a developer. Before we dive into this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and build the apps for saying sorry, indeed. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to walk you through the process in a sample data set here of actually building this up. And I'm actually going to let you submit bugs into this thing, and we're going to see how it works. So obviously we're not going to do that in my live solution because I don't want to drive my developers crazy. Okay, so one thing I do want to throw out here, though, just to let you know, the link for the Power Automate pricing is the top link on this one here. I am going to be using an Azure DevOps connection, which is a premium connection. I have not yet, knock on wood, actually been charged for any of this, and I believe it's because I actually have an active DevOps license. There's two things that are sort of going on here. I run with a Microsoft Office E3 license, and if you actually read the licensing really carefully around that one, it says with Power Automate that basically you get access to all of the free tiers plus other ones as things have been purchased. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? So this is a little bit murky, but I would say I usually try and start free. And then I find if it comes back and asks me to put in my credit card, that's, with a premium one, that's when I'll decide whether or not it's really worth it to me. All right, so let's go and get started on this. So I'm just going to go and jump over to into my office.com forms. So typically, if I'm trying to get to this, the easiest way is to just go to forms.office.com and sign in, and it will take me to this page here. And you can see that we've got a few forms here. So these are all real-life forms that we're actually using. I'm going to go and create a new one right now. So we're going to go new form, and I'm going to call this one VanPUG. We're going to call this one Demo 1. And in this one here, this is going to be our bug logging. Okay. So I'm going to add a question to this. It's going to be a text-based question, and it is going to be your first name. That's all I'm looking for in this one. It's going to be a required question. My second question here is your email. Just a quick note on this one, because I am going to get you guys, I'm going to actually share this with you. So I'm not doing any email validation on this. So hopefully, if you enter your email, you will enter your valid email just to make sure that it actually works. I don't know what's going to happen if you put in an invalid one. If it blows up, probably the flow will fail. The other thing is that I would appreciate if you used your real email so that it actually comes to you. The idea of this demo is that I'm going to actually acknowledge your request. So please don't send it to someone else's email. That's not on. I'm trusting you on this one. I don't want to get hit with spam requests. The other deal on this one here, I will not be showing in this presentation anywhere what your email is, so it is safe to put in. Nobody else will see it. And once this is all done, I plan to delete this form with all of the answers on it, because I don't want to be holding this information, because I don't really have a use for it beyond today. Okay, so all of those things are important to hopefully make you comfortable with actually sharing this in order for the demo. The last one that I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a bug description here. This is going to be a long answer. It's a free-form question where hopefully you can put in something that will actually allow us to check whether or not something actually gets into DevOps. Now, typically what happens with this is when I build a form like this with questions, what I'll do is I'll then go into preview, and I'll take a look at it, and I'll go and fill it out, and then I'll submit it. Now, I'm not going to do this right yet because I am going to be submitting my form a little bit later. So I'm just going to go and click back on this guy here, and I'm going to leave this in this state at this point in time. One of the things for reference that I find with Microsoft Forms is that after I've been playing back and forth with demos here and moving through pages and refreshing it, I usually end up with about 97 different tabs from Forms, because it seems that everything you click opens a new tab in your browser. That drives me nuts. I don't know why that has to be, and yet it does. Okay, so I'm going to try and keep this to a dull roar here with just a few of them. All right, now, the next thing I'm going to do here. I've built my form. It's very simple. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hop over to Power Automate. The easiest way I find to get to this one is to go to flow.microsoft.com. Flow, of course, was the original name for this product. Again, I don't know why they had to change. I thought Flow was actually pretty good, but hey, I'm sure there was some legal reason behind it. Even if you go and search for Power Automate, you'll notice that it actually goes and it comes back into flow.microsoft.com after it reboots. So there you go. what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new flow. So when we go to create, we get lots of different options here. And, there's a whole bunch of different templates here. I've been working with Flow for a long time. I have never yet jumped on a template that I've actually grabbed out of the gate that's allowed me to get to success. And this is one of those things with Flow where I've had a real sort of love-hate relationship. I've always tried to do things that seem to be just slightly more complicated than maybe the original flows were done with these things, or maybe I'm approaching it in completely the wrong way, which is entirely possible as well. So what I'm going to do at this, I'm going to look at this stuff and I'm going to say, okay, well, I don't want Power Automate desktop stuff. I don't know what the business process is. I'm going to let those ones go. Scheduled sounds interesting, but that might be for something else. Instant Cloudflow. Instant sounds cool. But automated here, even though those have like a similar name here, this one gets triggered by a designated event, where this one gets triggered manually. Well, if there's one thing you know about me, I hate manual things. I like to automate stuff. So I'm going to try this automated Cloudflow. And it comes back and it says, okay, what do you want to call it? So we're going to go, we're going to call it VanPUG Demo 1. There we go. And one of the triggers that you have available to you is when a new response is submitted to Microsoft Forms. Okay, that's pretty awesome. So I'm just going to go and select that one and say create. And it says, okay, cool. So when a new response is, pick your form. This seems easy. So I'll click on my drop down here. And I see that I've actually got one that I wanted to get rid of. Let me just go back and quickly fix one here, because this one, and this is actually kind of an interesting thing. This is all of the forms that I currently have. You'll notice that VanPUG Demo 3 is not here. So if I go and jump into my recycle bin, you'll notice that it is. So I can actually connect to a form that is in my recycle bin. They show up on the other side. That seems like a mistake to me. But I'm just going to delete that because I'm going to build a new Demo 3 a little bit later on. And you'll notice that once again, by clicking things, I've got multiple tabs. So I'm going to go back over here now. I'll come back into my flow. And at this point, I'm sure that this won't have refreshed. I'm just going to go and grab Demo 1. But by the next time I come around, it will have refreshed. Okay, so when a new response is submitted to the VanPUG Demo 1 form, that's the one that we built here. Okay, got that name there. That's good. So the next logical thing to do at this point is to create a new step. It says, okay, what do you want to do? Say, well, when a new response is submitted, I want to write it to Azure DevOps. So I'm just going to go and look up DevOps. Here's Azure DevOps. That's cool. And it says, what would you like to do? Well, I'm going to create a new work item. So right away, you can see here, this is a premium piece here. So it could cost me money. As I say, I've tested this. We work with this one. This one hasn't cost me anything. Again, I believe that's because of my DevOps license that I already have. But again, your mileage is something that you may want to watch on that one. Once I get to this, I said, okay, cool. So create organization name. All right. Well, it's Excelguru. That's the org for my DevOps Hive. The project name, I'm going to use the XLG Demos one. I don't want to write it to my Monkey Tools ones. I'm going to create a work item for a bug. That sounds like a good plan here. And what I want to do is I want to put this in by submitted. Oops, let's try and spell that right. By, and we'll put a space in here. Now, the whole concept around working with Flow here is this little dynamic content menu is supposed to pop up so that I can actually pick fields from my form. And you'll notice that all it gives me is the response ID. What the heck is going on with that? I kind of want the details of that form. I want the answer for the question. And this is something that I find really, really bizarre, because the way that this thing actually is sort of structured to work, it doesn't lead you to this spot. What I need to do is I actually need to tell Power Automate that when a new response is submitted to the form, I actually want to get the details of the form. You kind of would think this would be built in. So I'm just going to go back here and insert a new step, add an action. And I'm going to go to Forms. And it says Get Response Details, the first option for this. Why this doesn't happen automatically completely boggles my mind, because it only makes sense when a new response is submitted that I'm going to want to get that so I can take action on it. And if I don't, well, then I'll just ignore the form details. But to actually have put this in here with no sort of extra kind of pieces around it to let you know seems odd to me. At this point, I'm going to go back and here we go. Notice my Demo 3, now that I killed it from the recycle bin, is not there anymore. So that's what I want to see. I meant to clean that up earlier, but I have to pick the same form again. Say, look, I really want the details from that form. And then it says, what's the response ID? And I need to put the response ID into that field. Okay, so I got to set this up this way. Like I say, it's a little bit weird. I don't know why this is necessary. And when you work with other connectors, it's not. That's the other thing that I actually discovered. So now that I know this and I've got this, let me see what's changed with DevOps. If I go back to submitted by, boom, look at that. All the questions that I actually have in here are now available. And they actually fill in the field names here, exactly what the question was. So in this case here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and say, all right, let's say it's submitted by first name. And then the next part is that, now this one's just kind of a weird thing with DevOps. It says description. So I enter the description of the work item. I actually don't know where to find this in DevOps when I create a bug. So I'm going to go into the advanced options because then I get all the different fields here. So I can say tags. Let's create a tag called bug. And what else do I want in here? Where am I going to put this? Oh, I'm going to actually put it in repro steps. So this is going to be bug details. And then I'm going to put in a hard return. And I'm going to go and fill in the bug description that the user put in place here. Okay, so that's what I want to see show up. So when this actually writes into DevOps ticket, I want to see bug details, a hard return, and then the bug description that the user filled in, whatever that description actually is. It's going to get a title of who it was submitted by. It's going to have a bug tag. That looks pretty good. I think I'm happy with this. So I'm going to go and say save. Now, when you save this, what will happen is it will save, and then it comes up and says, okay, it's all ready. Now we recommend you test it. I mean, that probably makes sense, right? So let's go to test, and it says, how do you want to test it? I'm going to do a manual test on this. This is kind of weird because, honestly, I don't know that this actually, I looked at this and went, oh, cool, well, just fire off the flow. And what this means with manually is, well, now you got to go do whatever the action is that triggers it. How's that different than automatically? Because it's just going to run, right? Anyway, we'll hit test. And it's going to take us over to another page once this actually commits. And then it's basically just going to sit here and wait for us to go and actually trigger the flow. All right. So now I need to actually do something to see what happens. So we're going to go back over to my form. Preview. All right. What's my first name? It's Ken. What's my email? I'll throw that in there. Okay, and this is a bug that I want to log to DevOps. Okay. So I'm going to submit this, and I'm going to quickly flip back to the flow, all right? So submit, says it's submitted, and now we're going to watch this, and we can see that things have gone through. So one of the cool things about this that I didn't realize when I originally started working this years ago is that when you click on this, it'll actually come back and tell you what's going on. Now, this is not a really readable window, okay? That's all really not lovely and useful. But the response details will come back and they'll actually tell me what did I actually get here, okay? So I've got my email, I've got the bug description, the responder's email. These are all the things that came out of the form itself, and then the body of that particular piece here if I'm a programmer and want to read that. From there, it goes into create the work item, and it actually tells me this is the organizational name, here's the outputs and whatnot. I can throw a little bit more around it if I want to. This doesn't really help me a ton. Most of the stuff that helps me is what's actually happening in the response details. But now what I want to do is I want to see, did it actually work? So I'm going to jump into my projects. This is Azure DevOps. I'm going to jump into Excelguru Demos. And inside here, I'm going to go to the boards, which is where we would actually find our tickets. And you can see, I've used this a lot of times, and I think this actually uses a central logging number. So this actually picks up Monkey Tools tickets and everything else inside for ID numbers as well. But you'll notice that we have a new bug that was submitted by Ken at 6:23 p.m. It's now 6:24, so this is the active one. It's been tagged as a bug. And if I go and click on this, we can actually see the details of what was written. And this is where things look somewhat good and somewhat not good. It was submitted by Ken. Awesome. That came from the form. Perfect. Got the bug tag. Fantastic. But this is not awesome. Where's my hard return? What happened with that? So I'm not super thrilled with the way this one actually worked. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say, okay, let's just go back to work items. We'll leave this here for a second. And we're going to go back over to the flow here. I'm going to say, all right, let's go edit it. Now, this took me a little bit of experimentation working around trying to figure out. I kind of wish that there was something that was a little bit more obvious about it, but as it turns out, this field actually takes HTML. So I can go back and use my extremely limited HTML skills to figure out how to put this information in. So I'm going to wrap the bug details in bold. I'm going to put in a line break here. And then when I'm good to go with this one, I'm going to say, okay, let's try it again. We'll say save. And then it'll come back and save it and then ask me again if I want to test it. And this time I'm going to do a different test. I'm actually going to go automatic with a recently used trigger. And here's the last time it ran. So I don't need to go and upload something else into the system. I can actually recreate it using the same data that's already been cached. And this makes life a little bit easier for me. This is not at all what I expected to find underneath this automatically button. That just completely shocks me. But hey, maybe not named well, but regardless. If I hit test, what we'll see is it will actually now jump me over using the exact same response details. It will now go and create the work item. Okay, so there we go. It's been successful. We got the green check marks. And if I go back over to Azure DevOps and I hit F5, you'll notice that we got the new bug at 6:26 p.m. That's now perfect. And now if I jump in and take a look at it, I can see that this is all bold. This is now on a new line. So I'm happy with that. So testing these kind of things is kind of important, obviously. Okay, now, the next thing that I want to do inside this is I say, okay, well, that's really cool. We got partway through. We've got our work item created here. We just close this one down. And now what I want to do is I want to create a new step. And for this new step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this to go and refresh a little bit. And then I'm going to say email. And there's a few different email things that we actually have here. The one that I've had success with was this one here, send an email v2. Go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, okay, let's go in and put an email into to someone. Now, right here, I don't really see anything, so I'm going to click on the Add Dynamic Content. And you can see that, hey, look at that, your email. Interestingly enough, in the form, I ask people to enter their email. And the reason being is because responders email is an automatic thing that happens, but it only happens for people that are logged into my tenant, which most people are not. Okay, so that's sort of the tricky little bit along the way here that that you want to watch out for, is if you actually need these details, you actually have to ask for it. So we're going to say, okay, cool. So this is going to be to your email, and I'm just going to put in a message that says, thanks for playing. There we go. And now I'm going to go in and say, okay, cool. Well, let's go in and put in some information here. We're going to say, thanks for submitting your bug. And we have assigned the following ID. And at this point, I'm going, wait a minute. Where's the ID field in DevOps? I scroll down. Well, maybe it's in alphabetical order. Everything's in alphabetical order, but I don't see ID showing up anywhere here. Now, this threw me for a real loop. But I looked at this and I went, okay, well, you know what? I know that I have to go and get response details up here, so maybe I have to actually connect to the details of that ticket up above. Now, I'm going to show you how I did that, even though what I figured out afterwards is that if you filter, it actually fills up in this case, which is just mind-boggling. Why that doesn't show on an unfiltered list, I don't know. These are the little things that drive you nuts. But I'm going to show you that I didn't realize that to begin with. So here's what I did instead. I said, well, okay, how do I go and log this work item to something? So being a programmer, I was like, all right, well, what about variables? Do I have variables here? And it looks like I do. I have lots of variables here. So I actually played around with this. I did some searching online to try and figure this out, like all kinds of things, right? Like I say, this is one of those things that I find is really, really tough. But I said, I'm going to initialize a new variable here, and I'm going to call it bug ID. It's going to be a string, text. And the variable that I'm going to give it here, well, when I did that, boom, everything popped up. So I was like, oh, cool. Well, I'll just grab ID. So with this in place, I'm like, cool. We'll go back into the email, and now, look at that. Boom, bug ID is right there. Again, I didn't need to do this because I could actually filter it if I'd known. but it's just kind of weird. The user interface led me into a weird spot here. Actually, I feel like I need a little bit more here. I feel like I could actually also say hi, and then we'll go and say, let's do a search here for my first name field. So there we go. Hi, first name. There we go. Thanks for submitting your bug. Now, remember how when we filled things in with DevOps, we had to actually HTML code all this stuff? So naturally, the first time that I built this, what did I do? I wrote all the HTML markup to put in all my line breaks. And then I emailed it out. And what happened? I got all the raw HTML code show up in my email. Because what I missed was after dealing with the issue up here that didn't work, there's a full kitchen sink with this. This actually writes you the HTML content. Again, it's the little things that just go, the inconsistencies that drive you nuts. So I can say, let's go bold italics here. We've got a line break inside this thing. So I'm going to say, okay, that's cool. We're going to make that email. So we're going to save the flow. Everything's working here. And now it says test it. So we're going to go back to test. And I'm going to use the same data that I submitted 8 minutes ago. I'll say test. We're going to run the flow. So in theory, I should get a new Azure DevOps work item, and it should email me to say thank you. So let's check the board. F5. There we go. We got our new submitted by Ken. It's going to look familiar because nothing's changed on this. In addition, let me just go jump over here. And this is the email that I just received at, it is now 6:31 p.m. So there we go. Hi, Ken. Thanks for submitting your bug. We've assigned the following ID 393. That's the bug that we have right here. Okay, so we've now actually built something that when you fill in the form, it actually goes, writes that ticket, and then emails it. So now we get the chance for all of you to play with this and just make sure that it works. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into forms, go to send, change the flag here, common issue with forms, to anyone can respond. I'm going to copy that link. And now, if you want to fill in a bug report, there you go. What should happen at this point in time is flow should go through, take what you've submitted, and should go and actually create bugs in the DevOps hive that I have here. Remember, nowhere in these tickets does it ever show your email, and I'm not going to show the form where your email actually does get cached or whatever, so please feel free to use your real email. Once you submit that form, you should see that it emails you back to let you know that it's there. And if I hit F5 on this right now, oh, it doesn't look like anybody's actually gone and submitted one for me. Come on, somebody submit me a bug. Somebody's got to be brave enough to do it. Stanton, I know you're here. I know you'll do it. And I'm just going to go back and actually just check here and see whether or not we actually have anything. So we've got a few that came in about 3-4 seconds ago. Validating URL. Okay, well, that's interesting. So is the URL not working for you guys? Is anybody able to actually get to the form itself, or is it? Is it not? I did it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's see what I got in here. Oh, boom! There we go. Look at that. Philip, Stanton, Faraz, Carolyn, PG. Fantastic. Look at this. So let's see what Stanton submitted, because I know I can always pick on Stanton. He feels buggy. There you go. Cool. And I'm going to guess that you got your email, Stanton, as well, and whatnot. So. Has anybody using Forms noticed that the title using Forms drives the lightning bolt AI system to suggest questions for your forms sometimes? You know, that's a great question. And honestly, I ran into that once when I was building this demo, and I'm pretty sure I did the exact same thing every time I rebuilt the demo, and it only happened once. So yeah, I've noticed that. So that's kind of an interesting sort of one sometimes, right? So yeah, I can see that it's worked for a few people. You're getting your emails back, and the bugs are being submitted there. So there we go. And well, for us, it had me a big bug, right? So this is the exact system that we've actually used to log bugs in the real Azure DevOps for Monkey Tools. When you go and you hit the submit a bug menu, what happens is you get taken to a form. It asks for a lot more detail than this one, obviously. And when you submit it, it comes in, it writes the bug into Azure DevOps for us, it emails you back to let you know thank you. We get an email to say, hey, there's a new bug that's in the system here, you should go check that out. And at that point, we can contact the person for more details later on. So the real tricky things, say, with this thing that were tough to figure out. I should actually mention this as well, by the way. If I go into my flows and we look at VanPUG demo 1 here, If you click the edit, it takes you directly into the screen where you can edit the entire flow that goes through. If you click the name, what it does, it takes you into the sort of overall piece. So this is where we can see what our connections are. I've connected to Forms and Outlook and Azure DevOps. We can also see the run history of all the different flows that have happened in the last 28 days. We can change the name here. Tricky part with this is you got to hit edit. I keep on trying to edit the entire flow to do it, right? So, and there we go. We can now go and say edit, and it will take me back in here. The real tricky thing for me to figure out in this whole thing, honestly, was really about this. Get the response details. This completely screwed me up when I got started with it. And why this part wasn't actually, something along the way, would be an issue. Okay, so Kiadi said, maybe I missed it. Why would we use Forms to create bugs in DevOps and not create it directly in DevOps? Because the main reason that I've got for you is I am not giving you access to my DevOps account, period. So now there may be a way that you can actually set up your DevOps accounts with permissions to allow people to log things in there. If there is, I don't know it. I don't use DevOps to that level. So I may be working around a problem that is easy to solve another way, but that's the main reason. I wanted something that I could link to right from inside Excel, send it to a form, and it works as easy interface with user, possibly. Yeah, I don't know. This is my my method for dealing with it. Is say create the form to allow the public to log in things in there without giving them the read-write ability to go in and modify things later and things like that. So that is the number one reason why I'm doing it. Okay, so let's go on to example number 2 here. Okay, cool, makes sense. Good. I'm glad it makes sense. I always like it when my stuff makes sense. Let me show you another flow that I built here. This one here is around notifications that I use for when I post new videos for a couple of my training products. So I've got 2 courses here where I take advantage of this now. The first one is my self-service BI bootcamp, and the next one is the Excel Fundamentals bootcamp that I mentioned before. Both of these courses here have components where we actually record the Q&A sessions and the AMA sessions, and then we will actually post those videos up to Vimeo. So in the past, I would actually do all of that work, and then I would actually copy all of the email lists, which I maintain inside an Excel workbook. I would copy all those emails, and I would manually create the emails to send everything out to everybody. And it was just painful, right? Because you got to try and figure out what the wording is supposed to be and all this kind of things. So when I go and so my sort of method for this, just for reference, we do all these calls on Teams. So once Teams is, or once we've got the recording in Teams, just like I do for these ones here, I'll download it. I'll actually go and trim it and skin it with a couple of different things. Clean up the audio a little bit in certain parts if I have to, and then produce it locally with Camtasia. And at the end of the day, I got an MP4 file, which I then go and upload to Vimeo. So the workflow that I'm looking for here is when the new video is uploaded to Vimeo, I want to go into the Excel workbook, extract the appropriate email list from the Excel file that I have, which, by the way, is all driven dynamically by Power Query. And then I want to email each attendee to let them know about the new video. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to build a branch of that flow so that you can see how it's going. And then I'm going to actually toss it away. And at that point, I'm going to go and show you what the real one actually looks like. So I'm going to go create a new flow here. Now, this one is also an automated cloud flow triggered by an event, but this one's going to be built on a different platform. So this is going to be VanPUG Demo 2. And the one that I'm looking for here is I'm going to look for Vimeo. So I got a couple of different options when I upload a new Vimeo or when I add one to a channel. Now, I'm not actually using a channel, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this guy when I upload a new video to Vimeo. So this is what I was exactly targeting when I talked about the fact that I don't understand why Forms makes me go and binds to the object that I've got. No additional information is needed for this step. You'll be able to use the outputs in subsequent steps. Hallelujah. That is what's supposed to happen. All right, so fantastic. I'm going to go and say new step. And at this point, what I need to do is I need to be a little bit careful here, though, because this is uploading any new Vimeo video to our account. And as you may know from SkillWave, both myself and Matt Allington submit videos all the time. We submit videos for multiple different courses. So I got to make sure that I'm getting the right video. So So I'm going to go into a control condition, and I want a condition. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, look at this. How beautiful is that? Where the video name, let's go with, where am I here? Ends with. And every one of the videos that I upload, I make sure it ends in SSBI AMA. All right, so if it ends with SSBI AMA, I've got a yes and a no branch. I'm going to leave the no branch empty. So basically, if it doesn't end with this, it's going to go and say, well, there's nothing else I need to do. The real script is more complicated, as you'll see. What I'm going to do now is if it's yes, I'm going to add an action here. One of the things I discovered about Vimeo is that this flow kicks off the moment I upload the video. Now, for anybody who's uploaded videos to Vimeo or YouTube, you'll know that there is also a certain amount of time it takes to process them. So I don't want to email people and tell them it's ready until it's actually processed. And there's no way for me to really check that. So I had to go back and try and figure it out. Now, the AMA videos are typically 2 hours long. So I'm going to look for a wait here. And this is interesting because this kind of comes up with a lot of different stuff, but it doesn't come up with what I'm actually looking for. I was surprised by that. So I'm going to go with delay. Delay, schedule, fantastic. It would be nice if this had a synonym because this is the same kind of thing to me as wait. All right, specify the number of units to delay. For a 2-hour video in Vimeo, it's less than 30 minutes. How do I know? Trial and error. Okay, so there we go. So we're going to delay 30 minutes here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, cool. Now I need to go and I need to extract the list of emails that I'm actually looking for. Where do I keep them? I keep them in an Excel file that is uploaded to SharePoint. That is Excel Online Business. And what do I want to do? Now, this is the part that gets a little bit weird. Like, you got to start understanding the terms in this, and this is challenging the first time you come through here. What I'm looking for is I'm looking to list the rows present in a table. I'm going to do that one, and then it says, okay, cool. Well, where is it? So now we got to go and actually find the path for it. So this is going to be in my SkillWave data. And the document library that I'm looking for is documents, and the file that I'm looking for here is going to be under general, and then it's going to be under, sorry, where the heck am I here? Products. There's a long path to this one here, and then we're going to go into Excelguru courses, and then we're going to go and we're going to find the SSBI bootcamp. We're almost there. And then we're going to find our semester setup, and the file I'm looking for is this one here. Now, I'm not going to show you any of the actual registrants' emails. I'm not going to show you the original file, but inside this file, there are multiple tables in here. One of them, which is named AMA subscribers. That would be the table that has the email address that I'm looking for. Right? So it's going to go and it's going to get that data. What do I want to do after I've got that data? Well, I want to add another action. And this is where we get into a little bit of programming concept is for every single email that I actually have in here, what I want to do is I want to email someone. So this is going to be a control. I would like an apply to each. This is basically like a for loop. And it says, okay, you need an output from the previous step. Well, fortunately, it actually prefaces this and knows that when I connect to the rows in the table, again, like the Excel form, I don't have to go, or like Vimeo, I don't have to go back and tell it, hey, I want to deal with that. It just wants to know what I'm actually working with. So I'm going to say, okay, cool. Let's grab the list of items for the value here. Awesome. And then it says, okay, well, now what do you want to do? Say, well, for each one of the items in the value, I actually want to go and I would like to go and add myself an Outlook email, right? So at this point, I would go to email and send an email. And the cool thing about this is if I go back into dynamic content, it picks up email, which is great. But what you'll notice is that all of the other things that I'm actually looking for here, first name, last name, what's their email address, or semester name, this is the semester name that I give to each one of these things, I actually have those fields available. These are the only the only four pieces of information on that table. First name, last name, email, and the semester name. Interestingly enough, the two obviously validates, I did not expect this, but validates says, hey, that column is the only one out of this table that actually looks like it has valid email addresses, so that's the only one we're going to present to you. Anything else, I don't know what you're going to use, so we'll give you all of them, okay? Likewise, I can, of course, also get down here into the Vimeo components if I want to actually put those into the body of the email. Okay. I am going to, I'm going to actually, I'm going to get rid of this one. I'm going to just throw this one away here. So I'm going to go back to my flows for a second. I don't want this to run on real life data because this actually would affect real stuff if I upload a video. So I'm going to show you something that is actually really interesting. I built this flow today for the Excel Fundamentals Bootcamp. And I'm going to show you what it looks like today, going through the exact same steps that I did, except there's one small difference here. A couple small differences. I renamed these. You can rename your steps by going into rename. This is important because if you don't do this, what happens is when you add a delay step, when you add another one over here, this one becomes a delay 2, which is not really all that exciting. So I like to go back and sort of, name these things a little bit carefully. The other thing that's important, I never refer to a session as Q plus A. I always refer to it as Q and A. But you cannot save a step name in Power Automate or Flow that has an and sign in it, which is frustrating. You can use it for your text inputs, but you can't do it here. But you'll notice that when I create a new video, if it's an AMA session, ends with AMA, we're going to wait 30 minutes. We're going to extract our list. For every AMA student, we're going to send them a notification that has their email address, tells them that the AMA recording is available, gives them some information here. I believe I've missed something here because this one's supposed to have a link on it. I thought I'd save that. Maybe I didn't. And then, of course, we always throw the really cool tagline on it that says this was automatically sent via Power Automate, just to entice my students to ask how it was done, because we always like to talk about these things. If I go and take a look at this one, this is the Q&A notification, so a similar email, and it looks like I did save this one, so my links are here. So I need to go back and actually fix this so that it actually goes with the links. This is exactly what I would expect to happen. Now, I'm going to go back. This flow has never been executed because I just built this today, and our first Q&A session will be coming up in about 3 weeks. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my flows. I'm just going to throw this one away, and I'm going to show you the SSBI one. This one has a slight difference in it, and the reason being is because I wrote this a little while ago, and I don't know if I did something different or if the system has since been upgraded and changed. I'm not sure. But what's interesting is when I upload a new video, what you can see here is this is actually a for loop. And I can't remember, honestly, if I actually put this in at the beginning or not, because I meant to do a check if video is an SSBI session. Interestingly enough, when you click the for loop, if you remember when we did this for the Excel table, it says, well, we need an input from the previous one. So I actually threw in the body of the video. It didn't matter what it was. I just needed something. And after that, I can still check it. I really want to get all of this outside of this. And it looks like you can because you can drag stuff around. But then it tells me, hey, this is part of an inside for each loop, so you can't actually move it around. So at some point, I'm going to rebuild this entire thing because I don't think that it needs this for loop on it. But I got to do that, when I've got some free time on my hands here in order to make it work. But the cool thing is, as I know for sure Stanton can actually corroborate with this one because he's part of the SSBI Bootcamp. Every time that I go and upload a video, boom, the Power Automate email comes out to let him know that, hey, it's available and it's ready to go. So this actually works really, really easy once you've got it all set up. The key things that I have to remember with this, update my Power Query list to make sure that my subscribers are correct. Stanton says, yes, he gets them. Thanks, Stanton. Appreciate that. So I need to make sure that my email list is up to date. So I've got to go in and refresh my Power Query. Still trying to find a way to automate that one. And I also need to make sure when I upload the videos that I get the right tags on them. That's the most important thing here. So if it's an AMA, it's got to end with SSBI AMA. And if it's a Q&A, it needs to contain SSBI Q&A session. And this in itself is actually a little bit irritating because Camtasia will not produce a video that has "and" in the title. So I have to produce as a QA. It won't even take plus. And then I got to go back and rename the video itself. So there's still a little bit of tricky stuff that I got to do in order to actually make things work here. One thing that would be cool that I haven't tried yet would be neat to know if I can actually upload a video when a new video is answered to a Q&A. Now, that's a possibility. I like Q&A, so I fix it. But it would be interesting to know if I can actually build a flow that watches a SharePoint folder and says, hey, there's a new video in here. If it has SSBI Q&A, upload it to video, change the thumbnail, add it to it. I mean, that would be really cool. I'll figure that out in the future sometime. Anyway, these two work, well, this one for sure works. This one here I just created a little while ago, so I still have to make sure that it's all going. One of the things that I would definitely advise you to do, though, if you are building these things up yourself, really, really important is don't be blasting everybody your emails out when you're building this kind of stuff up. Make sure that your initial load from your Q&A spreadsheet is only going to you. And then run the thing to make sure that it actually works and is doing everything. And then after that, put all your emails into your Excel thing. You don't want to be blasting people 6, 7, 8, 9 tries in order to get it right, of course. Okay, so there we go. All right. So I'm just I'm watching the chat as we go. I don't see any crazy questions coming along here, so I'm going to jump back over and move on to the next one here. So the big thing that I like about the Vimeo one is that when I actually use Vimeo as a trigger, I don't have to do anything crazy to go and actually rebind to the object like I do with the Microsoft form. So, okay, all of you know that I like getting access to my raw data because I like to report on things. That's what I do. It's what I teach. It's what I sell. It's what I do. So what about the data behind the form? It's great that I can go and take that and write it to somewhere, but can I read it later? And the challenge that we've got with this is your standard form submission allows downloading snapshots of your data and only snapshots. If I go back to our VanPUG form here, and I take a look at the responses here, I don't know if I actually really quite want to do this one here. Let me grab a different form for this one here. What do I want? All of these things have email addresses in them, so I'm trying to figure out which one to use. Never mind. Regardless, the thing is, when we go into responses, there's a button here that says Open in Excel, and what that does is it downloads a copy of the data. Well, that kind of doesn't meet with my unusually high standards and expectations, because what that means is that every time I want to do an analysis, I have a manual process I need to go and do and download the data again. Well, that breaks automation. Manual is not cool. So the thing is that it is possible to connect a form directly to an Excel file. Now, this is underlined. There's a link here, and this goes to my good friend Matt Allington's site, where Jason actually wrote up an article on the best way to use Power BI with Microsoft Forms. Now, this is interesting and cool, and I'm going to say that I spent probably about 6 hours working through this thing here in order to get it all right, in order to build this demo over the last 2 days. And I'm not going to show you this. There's some reasons why. Best way to use Power BI with forms. Okay, I'll buy this. Give this the thumbs up. And I actually had this conversation with Matt earlier today. And Matt actually went in and put a new warning in this one here to say this process works as long as we don't manually edit the table of data stored in Excel. So there are all the steps here to go through this. If you want to check them out, you can do it. It's really important to get these things here and whatnot. And what this will actually do is it creates a new Excel file in a OneDrive location and then takes you over to create the Microsoft form for it so that when you actually fill in the form, all of the data gets written directly into the Excel file. And that's really cool. For Power BI, that will work because honestly, all you care about at that point is reading from the file. But I'm an Excel guy. I don't ever just read from an Excel file, right? What I do is I open up the Excel file and I want to go and add charts to it. A couple of big key things there. If you modify the table that is written by the flow into, or by the form into that table, you will destroy the file. Okay, this integration is extremely fragile, and once you break it, you'll get a nice little email like this. How do I know? Because I only broke it about 3 times trying to go through and replicate the demo and trying to figure out what did I do to break it this time. Super, super fragile. I already knew not to touch the table, and I didn't. And yet I still got this. I'm using dynamic arrays to pull data out of the table and do all kinds of different things. And I have some suspicions around it, but I'm going to tell you that right now, I would never, ever use this particular function here if I'm going to modify the Excel file in any way. If I'm only going to read from it, fine. Even that, based on the fragility that I experienced, makes me nervous. So I'm not going to do this anymore, okay? Because the other thing that I found is once you break it, there ain't no fix it, at least not that I found. So this kind of, as I say, is not a big thing. I also discovered some other things as I was going through this. And remember when we connected originally to the form that we were using for the DevOps data, we were able to bind to the form ID, response ID, and get access to all of the fields that were actually filled into the form. Well, Power Automate doesn't actually completely see the form that is created when you follow the steps in here. I don't know why. You have to manually put in the form name, but when you bind to the response ID, you don't actually see the answers to the questions. It's difficult, if not impossible. I suspect it's not impossible if you know exactly how to talk to them, but I can't figure it out, to extract that data from the form submission. Why are we doing it? So we can extract the data from the form submission. Now you could, of course, because the data exists in Excel now, connect to the Excel file. The problem is that there's no new row created trigger in the Excel file. Now you may be able to build some kind of a complicated flow that looks at, you can set up a trigger to say run every 1 minute, but what if 2 entries get recorded in the last minute? So you might be able to build a flow that actually says how many things were added within the last minute and take action on those. But this makes me nervous. It gets really complicated and just seems like it's not the right way to do things. One of the most mind-bending things I find with forms is that it doesn't work, or with Power Automate, is it doesn't work the way that I expect it to work. And I have to change the way I think about things. So my suggestion is, well, wait a minute. There is something that I saw, didn't call out, but saw when I was going through and connecting to the Excel workbook later. There was the ability to add a row in a workbook. I thought, okay, that's interesting. So I'm going to build you a demo here in hopefully about 15 minutes here of how we can actually still get access to the form data and still get access to the Excel data as well in a reliable format that works. And what it involves is creating a completely separate workbook, reading from the form in order to write the data and add a new row to that workbook. And at that point, it's actually stable. So what we start with is we build an Excel or build a new table in an Excel file, and we include some specific columns. Now, the first 3 honestly are optional. These are the only 3 columns that you can pull out of the form that you don't specifically put in your questions. Okay, you can put in the form ID, so that'll give the index number of the entry, the submission time. It's weird because the actual form itself gives you the time started and time ended if you download the Excel data, but you can't extract that. You can get the submission time. You can also get the email, but again, that email is only as good as with the person being logged into your tenant. So if you don't have any use for these, don't add them to your table, and you shouldn't need to map these fields. Then it's important to make sure that you have a column for each of your form questions. Okay, so what you do then is you save the file to SharePoint or OneDrive. Make sure that your autosave is turned on. This is really important because otherwise you can get into conflicts if somebody's writing something into your form and you're making changes and you're offline. Well, at that point, you get a conflict when you try and save it. So always make sure that you're editing with autosave on or editing in the web browser. Okay, so one or the other there. Once you've got your Excel file built and synced to OneDrive, autosave is on. If you've still got it open, then what you can do is you can create your form, and then we can create a new automated cloud flow like we did for DevOps, which we trigger on a new form response, and then we add a row with details to the Excel file. At that point, every time somebody fills out the submission, boom, it gets added to the Excel file. Pretty awesome. But better than the previous solution, because if the data ever goes out of sync between these 2 things, it still exists in the form with the index number. So you can go, wait a minute, I don't have a row 5. You can go back to the form, find the submission that was in row 5, and you can add it to the table in the Excel file without blowing up the solution. And that's the big thing here. If there's one thing, it's like it's awesome to be able to come up with hacks and workarounds with stuff, but the big challenge on this whole thing is I don't want something to blow up, right? That's the big piece here. So I'm going to run through a demo of building this up. This is going to start from my favorite application over here, which is Excel. And here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to go and I'm going to make a file save as. And let me just go and put this path in here. So we're just going to go right into this location here. And I'm going to call this one VanPUG Demo 3. Save. Okay. And now I'm going to turn autosave on immediately. Okay. I just don't want to forget on this one here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build myself the framework for my data here. So we're going to go with attendees by country. Oops, we're going to try and spell country right because that kind of stuff drives Ken crazy. We're going to have country and we're going to have a count. Okay. And there we go. Actually, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. This is the data that I want to get out at the end. So let me do the other one while I'm actually here. This is going to be versions, versions by attendee, right? And this is going to be my version and also going to be my count. Now, these are the tables that I want to build on the output. So this is going to be name my report. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go create a new sheet over here. I'm going to call this one data. And I'm going to create myself a new table. We're going to have ID. We're going to have submission time. We're going to have email, version, and location. Those are going to be the 5 fields that I'm actually looking for. I'm going to grab this, press Control-T to turn it into a table and tell it that my table does have headers. And then for right now, I'm just going to go and put in some seed values just to test things out. Office 365 in Canada. And then I'm going to give my table a nice little name here called data. Okay, so just basic table stuff here, but I'm basically making an empty table frame here. Before I save this and start building the form to write into it, I'm going to wipe these 2 values out. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go back to this report page here. Let's make this look a little prettier because, you know, why not, right? So we're going to make that blue with white and bold. We'll just go and do the same thing over here. Format painter, bingo, there we go. All right. What is my country going to be? Equals unique. And this is going to be the unique columns from the data table. We're going to go and grab this from the location field. So we're going to use a dynamic array for this, and it comes back with Canada. I also need a COUNTIF. And the COUNTIF is going to be based on the data and, again, the location fields. And what I'm going to base this on is I'm going to go base it on Canada, and we're going to say hash mark, because I want to get the results of the dynamic array. Okay, so you can see that this is 1. The reason why I use the dynamic array for this with the hash of B5 here is because if I were to go and add a new one here, let's call this one USA, for example. If I go back over to my report, I want this to automatically expand. Okay, so that's the dynamic array piece. For right now, though, let me just get rid of that. Okay. So I've got some data that we're going to be using for that, so that's cool. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build my versions out here. So this is going to be, we're going to have Office 365, Excel 2021, Excel 2019, Excel 2016. My dad just phoned me today to let me know that his Outlook has told him it's not working anymore. He's on Outlook 2010 and then Windows 7, so he got the advice to go and buy a new computer. Just, you know, sort of weird things that happen in my life on a morning. All right, so let's go and do a COUNTIF here. All right, what's our range? Data. This one's going to come from the version column. A little more than that. And the criteria is going to be it equals Office 365. So we should have a count of 1. There's no other counts in there for anything else yet. And then if somebody puts in something other than that, what I need for this one is I need a count A of the data version information minus the sum of these guys up here. So other will be anything that anybody else submits. All right. This is the source data for the charts that I want to build. So I'm going to start with this here. I'm going to grab this data. I'm going to go insert. We're going to insert a nice little map chart right there. There we go. That's got Canada on it. One thing that drives me crazy about this is what we call an IV chart. If I hit equals, it puts in equals. I can't link this to a cell. Very, very frustrating. So I have to go back and actually put in our hard-coded value or try something funky by putting a text box. It's kind of sad. It's the new and improved chart types for certain charts, and unfortunately, it didn't quite work the way they wanted here. Okay, on the chart design, I need to select this so that it grows up. I have a phone a friend into a friend of mine asking, why can I not use a dynamic array in here? And he said it should work, and it definitely doesn't. So we're going to hack this right now. I'm just going to go and actually add this. I'm going to expand the range so it goes to 99 rows and say OK. And at this point, you can see that it does select all kinds of stuff. Fortunately, in this chart, when it's got blanks, all it does is give me this little widget here and say, hey, we can't plot everything because we don't know what countries they are. Good enough. Don't care. It's all going to work. I just want something that's going to expand as people add more data with forms into this. So that's one chart. Now we're going to go and insert our next chart. This one here is going to be a 2D bar chart, everybody's favorite. We're going to go and click on this guy here and say equals and link it to our cell. Fantastic. We'll go right-click, format the axis, plot this in reverse order so the bigger numbers are at top. And then we're going to go with this guy here, and for our major units, we're going to put 5 because it doesn't make sense to have 0.1 versions. And there we go. So we've got a nice little chart here. Okay. So I have built up my 2 charts that I want. I'm now going to go back and wipe the data out of this. I wish with a table that I could delete this empty row altogether. That would be awesome, but unfortunately I can't. So I'm going to have a blank row to begin with. So there is going to be something I'm going to need to do later. You can see the charts have emptied out now. So I'm just going to hit save on this one. We're going to make sure that it's actually saved nicely. And then I'm actually going to close it for right now, and we'll come back to this one in a little bit. All right, so that's the first part. The next thing that we need to do is we need to go and make our new form. So I'm going to say, let's create a new form. And for this particular form here, I'm going to call this one VanPUG Demo 3. And the description of this is, let's see if we can write Excel data to a file. There we go. All right. Add. All right. Oh, look at this. I think this was Philip's question earlier. Have you ever noticed how sometimes it gives you lightning bolt choices? So apparently this one's given me some options here. It's obviously pulled this out of some other stuff because I've done this before, but that's all cool. I don't really need that. I want to go to choice. The choice that I'm going to say is your Excel version. Let's see if it's smart enough to figure that one out. Nope. We've got Office 365, Excel 2021. We've got Excel 2019. We've got Excel 2016 plus an add other option. We'll make this required. And then we're going to go add new. Again, we're going to go with a choice, and this one is going to be where are you right now? Again, nobody's going to see your real data. We're not tracking your email address for this. I can't get your email address from this even if I want to because you're not an Excelguru employee. This is kind of cool though. When I put in Canada, I can choose United States. Let me grab Australia. Maybe I'll grab UK, and then that's good enough. I'm going to go add other, right? So this is where somebody can free fill their question, their country if you're in a different place. Hopefully somebody will come up with something different here. So here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to leave this alone because everything looks like it's in good state. My form has been created. I'm not going to do anything with the form at the moment here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump over to Power Automate. And we're going to go and create a new flow. Now, in this case, I can actually grab my data from the form. So VanPUG. When a new response is submitted to a Microsoft form, pick a form. What do we got here? VanPUG Demo 3. I love that I case all these things consistently and then put dashes inside there. Those things would drive me insane. All right, new step. Now, hopefully we've learned our lesson about these kind of things, so we know that we need to go and get the response details. We might as well deal with that up front. Of course, I always forget, get burned, and have to go back because that's just the way that I work. Again, why is it that it doesn't just do this automatically like Vimeo? Like, you know, just would totally make sense. Or the Excel file for that example, or for that matter. Okay, cool. So we've got the form here that we bound to. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, actually, I'm going to search for a second for Excel because I want to show something here. We have Excel Online Business. We have Excel Online. This is personal OneDrive. This is Excel for Business or SharePoint. Okay, so two different things that we're working with here. And what you'll notice on this one is if we scroll down here, we can see add a row into a table. Fantastic. This is the Online Business version. So I'm going to go click on that one. And it says, great, Ken, tell me where it is. So I got to go through all the groups that I have in Office 365. Oops, that's not the right one. Let's try and find it in the right place. This one's going to be in my documents library, and then I've got to go and actually find it. So if we go and scroll up, it's in Keynotes. It's all the way down at the bottom and working with forms. VanPUG Demo 3. So this is the Excel file that I just built with a cool little chart. What table do you want? I want the data table. Awesome. Now, it says, cool, tell us about the information that you want to put in. It is connected to the table and brought back every single column that is in this table. So now I get to choose what do I want for my form to go into these individual pieces. So I'm going to put response ID into ID. So we're going to go with that one. Submission time, that's the timestamp. These are the two columns that I did not create. There are no questions around these. Notice that I don't get the submission started, submission ended that I can download, but submission time I do get. So I'm going to throw that one in. Why not? The responder's email, this is responder's email. I never asked a question on this, so you will not see that that any of you, everything would show up as anonymous. It won't, because you're not logged into the Excelguru Hive, and I can actually show you that in a little bit. Finally, the version, we'll go with the Excel version, and location, where are you right now? Okay, so at that point, I'm going to save the flow. Now, I'm going to test it manually, because you should always do this. Test. Okay, let's go to the blank page. Come on, there we go. If I go back over here, I'm going to go to preview. Choose an Office 365. I'm based in Canada. Submit. If I jump back over here, the flow is running. Got the response details. It's trying to add the rows into a table here. This is why it's super, super, super important to make sure that if you have the workbook open, that it is actually open inside inside our with autosave on. Okay. One thing that is quite interesting right now, particularly around working with Excel, is I want to show you something. This is my Excel window right now. There are no workbooks that are running. This is the folder that I actually have inside my OneDrive synced file. Notice that it's still syncing. This is ridiculous because there's no workbook open. I've closed it and it's not syncing. And yet, if I now go and close Excel, what you'll see is that empty Excel, once I close it, it's going to go and it's actually going to sync and get this thing working properly. It might take a minute or so in order to get that to go. But it's a really, really weird thing with this whole thing. I don't know why this is happening, and it's happening to Word documents, it's happening to PowerPoint, it's happening to Excel. All of these things here are the application is locking this this particular thing from going through and doing its job. So I'm actually just going to go and take a look really quick in my task manager because I was expecting that would have actually completed quicker. I do not see Excel here. Okay, that's interesting. It's not being held open. All right. It will sync. Maybe it's because I got something else open. I'm not sure. At any rate, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm actually going to open it up and I'm going to check, did that data actually come through? And what you can see is we now have Canada showing up with Office 365. Now, if I go back and I take a look at my table here, you can see the blank rows here. So I'm going to go and delete this because I don't need it. Notice that it has picked up my email. I never asked it to record my email. I never submitted my email. The only reason it gets this in the file is because I am logged into this account with my email address, and it knows that. For all of you, because you are not logged into the Excelguru tenant, this will not show up. Okay, and I'm going to show you that right now. We're going to go back here now. Oops, we're going to go back into our history. Okay, that's all cool. I'm just going to close that out. We're going to go back into my flows. We're going to look at the VanPUG Demo 3. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to say, cool, let's go send. Anyone can respond. We're going to let this save to make sure that that link is actually valid. There we go. We're going to copy this guy here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to hit paste. So if you wouldn't mind filling out my super technical survey right now, I would love to be able to see what's actually happened, what version of Excel you're on and where in the world you're actually attending from. So hopefully we'll see a few of these things start coming through here real quick. It looks like I've got a couple coming. Now, one thing I have to admit with this is I have not stress tested this to see what happens if 97 people go and actually submit all at the same time. I don't know the answer to that. It would be kind of interesting to see what's going on there. But I can see a few of these have come in. So let me just go and jump back over to the Excel file here for a second. And if you can do me a favor with this, you'll notice that it's updating nicely here. And actually, it just updated again. We got someone who just put in Bhutan over here, and I would love it if people would continue to submit here, or even submit another response. Pick another country, submit, another. Oh, there's another one. Look at that. I'm not doing anything. You notice this, right? Like, this is really cool. As new things are actually being submitted, what we're seeing is that they're actually coming into the form live as we go. Okay, so that is pretty cool stuff. Now, oh, hey, KSA actually worked. I was curious whether or not that one would. I was curious whether KSA would actually map or not come through, and it needed to be Saudi Arabia. I actually very explicitly picked United States as one of the options in the drop-down list to make sure that nobody was actually going through and typing in something that didn't actually work. So how did I connect the report and the data in Excel? Great question. So remember this data table that we have? Oh yeah, by the way, here's all your email addresses. They're going to be really, really useful to me, right? So there we go. So how did I actually connect it to write this data in here? Well, the answer comes down to what we actually did with the form connects the data. So I get all the responses are showing up in here. And remember, this is the cool thing, right? If there's ever a sync issue, we can go into the results and we can actually see exactly what happened. Every one of them has actually been recorded here. These are read-only. There's nothing we can do about it. So we can always go back and say, I'm missing record 12. Well, now I can go back and I can add it into my record on the other side. So that's pretty cool. But how did it get from here into the Excel file? Well, that's what the flow is all about. So if we go back into the edit, every time a new response is submitted to VanPUG Demo 3, what we do is we go and say, give me that VanPUG Demo 3 Excel file, take the response ID, put it into the ID column in a new row, the submission time, the email, the version, and the location. So this is extracting the data that you've entered into the form and going and pasting it right, locking it straight into the Excel file here. So, and John is telling me that he's having some challenges with the URL not validating for him. That is odd. It's obviously working for a lot of other people. I don't know what's happening in that particular case. It's strange, but like I say, it's something that I would troubleshoot a little bit later on. One thing I do want to call out with this, notice we got a couple of others here. We don't know what those are, so we would have to go back to the data to actually figure those things out. So we've got somebody from New Zealand on Excel 2013, time to upgrade just for reference. And there must be one other one that doesn't meet with my things that I've actually picked up. It's the same person from New Zealand. They're still on Excel 2013. There you go. So don't click on the URL. Just copy the link to a new browser window. Yeah, maybe that will help as well. You'd think that Teams would give you the ability to just click on the link and it would always work, wouldn't you? But I mean, Teams, right? So anyway, the cool thing, there's two really, really cool things that I want to sort of call out from this. Number one, if I realize that there was supposed to be a record 0 right now, and boom, okay, it doesn't like this, right? Upload failed, because I'm probably trying to do something that's actually conflicting with an action that is going on right now. So I need to be a little bit careful potentially on how I do it. And I can see that there was a new record came in from Ecuador right here. So if I go and say, maybe I can get away real quick and say, let me insert a new record into the table. And now go with 0 and 2022 0202. I'm going to put this one in as Ken at excelguru.ca again, and I'm going to say, I don't know, Mac Office or something like that. And I'm going to say that I'm from, I don't know, let's put Korea just for fun to get a new city. If somebody can submit a new entry for me, I just want to prove, boom, there it is. Awesome. We got another one from Canada. Look at that, 26 showed up. So I can add a new entry in there. Now, if I add an entry 26, it is entirely possible I can get duplicates. But if you go back and use the article that I showed you before that Matt had, which, as I say, if you're only reading the data, it's great. If you tried to do this in that Excel table, it would blow up the entire file. This one doesn't matter because we're just adding a new row. And at this point, we've still got stuff that's all showing up here. Our chart's filling out nicely. All of our stuff is showing up nicely here. And it's happening live as we go. The big key to making that happen is keeping autosave on. All right. So, all right. Let me go back to this one here. At this point, I'm going to get to this slide here, which is the thanks for watching type slide, and all of several ways that you can actually connect with me. Excelguru links on the left, my SkillWave links on the right here. The important ones that you want to check out for us is I have Office 2021. So sorry, what did I miss on that one for us? Was there a challenge on what happened in KSA? Let me just see here. Where's the Saudi Arabia? We got a 2023. We got an Office 365. KSA. So you put an Office 365 for every one of them. So are you telling me that you submitted the wrong thing?
No, everything is perfect. I said nobody is in Office 2021.
Oh yeah, no. Well, you know what?
Data is blank.
Listen, if there's one thing that makes me super happy in this, it's that nobody's on Office 2020 or 2021. Don't buy it. Just go straight for Office 365. When you buy this, you're already buying an obsolete product. Go to the one that's current, right? So, there you go. Okay, so Pranam obviously works with this, and it said if you're using Power Automate cloud flows in a live production environment, I highly recommend that you enable error handling using the scopes. Try catch finally so your flows don't fail. Default option fills your inbox with flow failure notifications without specifying why or how many to or how to fix it, and thrown a link into the chat on how to do that. I'm just going to click on that and open that link up just in case anybody is looking for it. That is the Googleable title with it. I think that's probably some pretty sage advice. So I appreciate you throwing that out there. Error handling is always a good thing. I haven't got to that stage yet because my flows haven't failed that badly yet, but I'm sure that one day it will happen, and then I'll be extolling the virtues of making this happen right off the bat. But again, I'm a newbie to this as well, right? So, anyway, hopefully you all found this interesting and whatnot. It's kind of neat to see that there is a way to actually make this live demo happen here as well with the Excel file. I think that's really cool. I did want to show some Excel with it. So if on that note, I'm going to say I think there's no other questions that are in the chat here. So I'm going to end it off for tonight and let you know that the video will be up within 48 hours on the SkillWave YouTube channel. So if you follow or if you jump on and follow the SkillWave YouTube channel here with this link here, which is already in the chat, that will allow you to be notified as soon as it's posted. I will also be posting in the Meetup site once that is available as well. So even if you aren't on the SkillWave YouTube channel, you will get notified from it there. So.